Okay, hey folks, we're back. Lindsay Kjar.
Matt Kjar.
Good to be with you again. It is the first day of school here in Bountiful, Utah, and so you're going to hear in the background we've got kids showering, a dog ready for a walk who's panting here on the floor. He's like, enough already with the podcasting, let's get out the door. But we wanted to hurry and record for you guys. It's Tuesday, it's not Sunday like we were hoping it would be, but better
Sunday
late than
ended
never.
up being busier than we anticipated.
Sunday was kind of busy, yeah. So here we are on Tuesday, but
so Sunday we did several different things. Do you want to talk about the first thing that we did?
Yeah. So let's go back just a little bit further than that in the week. So last time we recorded, we kind of told you guys how I had done a lot of kind of just self-coaching on myself all week, getting ready for that previous Sunday, and how my experience was just so different than it had been the week before. And then this kind of strange thing that I was not expecting happened a couple of days later. I think it was maybe Tuesday of this last week. I woke up and I leaned over to Matt in bed and I said, oh my gosh, like I can feel a visceral difference in my body. And he was like, really? Like, what's it like? Tell me about it. And I said, it feels like the same feeling you have when you've been going through a breakup with like an old boyfriend or something. And all of a sudden, months later, you feel that difference of like I'm done. Like I can move on. I can start dating other people. The pain of that breakup finally just feels like it has kind of subsided and you feel like you're ready to move on. And so anyway, I woke up and I'm trying to explain this to Matt and he's like, that's kind of weird. What did you think about it when I was explaining it to you?
Yeah, just because it felt like because I'm still in that relationship, it felt a little bit like unnerving, I think is the right word for it. Yeah. Not that our relationships have to be exactly the same, because I think I was thinking about that same analogy, like when you have, like we had a friend just recently who they're getting divorced and they both texted us separately and were asking for recommendations or something to go before the court, and I was like, that's interesting, like what if we still wanted to have a relationship with each of them individually? Our relationship wouldn't always be about like their marriage, and like you could have an individual relationship with them still. So that's something that I'm kind of trying to process, because it has been a relationship with kind of the three of us in some ways, but in all actuality, it's never been the same. Like my relationship with a person or with the church or with anybody is all about my thoughts about that person or that church or that whatever. And your relationship is all about your thoughts and your feelings. And so that's really all a relationship is just the thoughts that you think about it. And so I was thinking, like, I can still have positive thoughts about the church and you can still have negative thoughts about the church. Or now, not even negative, just like I've moved on.
Kind of more neutral thoughts.
Yeah. And I can still have those positive thoughts, and I can still just be like, oh, I love this thing, and you can be like, oh, I'm glad you love that thing. I don't anymore, but that's fine. So it was kind of a little bit tricky for me at the very beginning when you said that, but I can kind of see how that has been helpful for you. Yeah,
I think, we did think of it. I kept explaining it to Matt in terms of a relationship, and I was trying to understand. I said, this must be tricky for you, because I remember, a couple different times having boyfriends who got close to my entire family, right? And so when I broke up with them, it hurt. It hurt, or if they broke up with me, right? Either way, it hurt, but it didn't just hurt me. It also hurt my parents, right? Because they were close to this person, and they were like, oh, ouch, it hurts that they, broke up with you, because it kind of feels like they broke up with the whole family, or oh, so sad that, that you're not going to be seeing them anymore because we really liked their company and we enjoyed them. And so breakups are just not simple, right? They affect everyone. And so I was aware as I was telling Matt this and feeling so excited about it that it might not feel quite as exciting to him, that I was like, I'm through with this. Like I'm moving on from this old boyfriend and I'm ready to move forward. A little bit tricky there, but not impossible.
No, not impossible at all, because at the same time, like I can be happy for you, because in some ways it was so painful for you that I don't want you in a place that is painful for you. And at the same time, I want to be in a place that is happy and joyous for me. And so there is that understanding, like, where do I begin? Like, where am I and where are you? Yeah. Because especially as a couple, sometimes you become so enmeshed that, like, you start finishing each other's sentences, and you like the same foods, and you like the same, movies. And
we love when we're out walking together, and there are these cute couples that are dressed just to like
exactly.
They're like in their 60s or 70s, and now they're both retired, and she's doing all the shopping for both of them. And she's like, "This hat works for me. Why not too? These exercise shorts work for me. Why not too?" But yeah, I think you're right.
And so there is, but you still have to be. I think you have to have a sense of belonging within yourself very first. That's Brene Brown in her book, Braving the Wilderness, talks about how you have to belong to yourself first before you can belong anywhere else. Yeah. And I think some people, when their spouse leaves the church or they want to go back to the church or whatever the situation is, it was such a part of the two of them that it's difficult because they're like, well, how do I belong to me? And how do I still say this is what I want? And you be okay with that. And I think
it just takes practice, I think, don't you think? Like initially it feels really scary and it feels like, oh, this will feel so alienating. But with time, I think you just start to find new people, right? Matt sits by this cute little elderly lady each week, and she's alone. Her husband has passed away and her kids have all moved away. And so the two of them have just, bonded and have this cute little friendship. And I think, like you just kind of don't expect stuff like that to happen. And then it does. And same with me, right? Initially I was lonely staying home without you and the kids. And then one by one, our kids started staying home more with me. And anyway, so it's just these transitions, right? And just trying to kind of, I love the thought, everything is figure outable, right? So when it feels really lonely, just being like, we'll figure this out. And when it feels overwhelming, it just kind of like leaning into that discomfort and just remembering, we'll figure this out. We always figure things out. So why not this, right? So anyway, so that conversation that morning about how similar that visceral feeling in my body of like, I am done, I'm ready to move on. All of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I ran to the computer and I just Googled the stages of grief within a breakup, within a relationship. And I thought, oh, I'm sure if this is what's going through my head, there's probably, articles about that somebody's written that have, similarities. And sure enough, thank you, Google, there's always something, right? Psychology Today had this fantastic article that had the seven stages of grieving a breakup. And I'm just going to read one little part of it to you. If you want to look it up, it's on the Psychology Today website. But in the last paragraph, it says the stages of grief that follow any trauma, breakups included, can happen over the course of minutes or even seconds across days, months, or years, and then switch around without warning, leaving you feeling without foundation, especially in the beginning. You feel alien to yourself or cut off from the world. However, like any emotional amputation, continuing on in life means learning to live without that part of yourself and finding ways to compensate for its loss. Furthermore, recognize that there is a method and a structure of sorts to this chaotic grieving process. Knowing that you are not alone can help you ride it out. Your grieving is a part of the human condition. Without it, we would not be wired the way we are to handle the many pains and losses that occur in our lives. As the grieving process progresses, you will begin to see your way through to a point at which you can let go in a more proactive and self-protective way, a way that you may eventually come to understand as a new beginning. So I thought that was just a beautiful way to sum up the article.
I love that, and I love one of the things that I love about that is basically that this is. Maybe we've talked about this before, that sometimes we get to this point in life where something happens like this and we think this is a problem, this is not supposed to be happening, this is this is like an error, like a programming mess up or something like that, like if you look at a program and you look at a feature or not a feature, you look at something that you think is a bug, you're like, oh, this program has a bug, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait, what if this isn't a bug? What if this is a program feature? What if like this is the way? I love Jennifer and Finlayson and Fife. Our friend Jennifer talks about how sometimes we think of something as pathological or something as developmental, and she's pathological meaning like it's a like an error, like a pathology meaning
built in,
yeah, some sort of something that is a problem. And then she talks about how sometimes things aren't pathological. We think they are, but they're actually developmental. There's something that are helping us to develop and to become the next best version, a new beginning, like the article says. I love that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when it's super powerful, is when you can recognize whether it's your spouse, whether it's you, that this might be the next best thing to get you to an understanding of your own spirituality, your own like relationship with your spouse, with God if you believe in God, with just people around you if you don't believe in God, if you just believe in the universe, whatever your beliefs are. Like, this actually might be the way that happens.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I love that, because what's the alternative? The alternative is that this shouldn't be happening, and this is going to be the worst thing ever, and I'm never going to recover from this, right? So, and they're both just stories. They really are. Everything that we tell ourselves is just made up, right? We just come up with stories that feel helpful to us in some way, and sometimes those stories, they feel helpful to our brain, but in reality, they're not helpful at all. You look at the results that are coming from those stories, and if they're leading you into the ditch, and if you feel awful all the time, there's a reason. That story is not useful, even though your brain is holding on to it for dear life, right? And so I think just getting really real about, being curious about your brain, and are the thoughts and the stories that you're telling yourself leading to things that you like. So that's where I am on my path, and Matt is continuing ahead full speed, within the church. And I am now coming to this point where I thought I was done. I feel in lots of ways like I've been done for a couple of years now. But I feel like this, I don't know, that it's like I'm finally having actual real closure to that chapter in my life. And I'm feeling like just this real excitement. The last step of the grieving process for breakups is redirected hope. Let me read, if you'll just pardon my reading for just one more second. It says, "You were leveled by the breakup and have had difficulty letting go, in part because it shattered your relationship with hope. As acceptance deepens, moving forward requires redirecting your feelings of hope from the belief that you can single-handedly save a failing relationship to the possibility that you just might be okay without it. It's jarring when forced to redirect your hope from the known entity of the relationship into the abyss of the unknown, but this is an opportunity to redirect the life force of hope. Regardless, hope is somewhere in your reserves, and you will access it. Again, as you continue to allow some meaningful distance between you and your ex." So I just thought that was just a beautiful thought about this next phase of life, which is redirecting your hope to something that feels more useful to you and something that feels beautiful to you. So Sunday, I decided, you know what, I'm going to keep practicing being a visitor in churches. And so we kind of planned a marathon. We went to the Bountiful Church of Christ from 10 to 11. And then we went to the LDS Sacrament meeting from 12 to 1. And then we went to the farmer's market from 1:30 to 2:30. And in some ways, the farmer's market is my new church. I was telling Matt, I love the Bountiful Church of Christ. We've been there several times, and I still enjoy some parts of LDS Sacrament meetings. But really, where I feel like I'm with my people is when I'm at the farmer's market. And so for now, that's going to be where I'm going to spend my Sundays until they're done and they wrap up, and then I'll have to find something new to do in the wintertime. But I love that the farmer's market is a big group of people who are not at all alike, right? I mean, the state prison has a program going on right now where they have some of the prisoners there selling plants, and I love that they're there, and I love that there are people giving henna tattoos, and that there are people selling salsa, and there are just people there that are creating and giving and doing in their unique way. And most of them are probably not churchgoers because it's a Sunday market, and those are my people right now. So that's where I'm redirecting my current hope is just to, just back into the unknown, into the future, and I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what the future holds for me, and I'm excited to keep doing my very best to support Matt on his path as well.
I think that I was thinking about stories, right? And I think sometimes a helpful activity is to go back and write, like if your story had a title, if your book had a title, what would that title be? Or a chapter. Maybe this is just the end of that chapter, and the chapter that just finished would have been,
What would you call this chapter, Matt?
The new chapter?
Yeah, the new chapter for you.
For me?
Knowing that I've kind of closed this chapter for me, and what does the chapter contain for you?
I think the new chapter for me would be redefining belief or redefining faith, something like that. Because I think for a long time, there was a specific way that I thought that faith had to look. In fact, I was talking with a friend at church about this, and he said, because he has a son who's transgender, and he said it's really difficult because we have this certain way that we think everything should always look, and so when something doesn't look like that, it's difficult for us to understand. That's how we are. And I think sometimes that's just how our brains work, right? Our brains want everything to kind of look the same. If something is different, our brains immediately, you go down, a kid brings home a report card and you scroll through and you're like, A, C, what happened in here? What happened in this class? Instead of being like, good job on all those A's. Let's look at how we can improve on that C. We immediately go to where's the problem. And that's what our brains do at church, right? If there's somebody who walks in and they smell like cigarette smoke, we go, oh, there's a problem because that person smells like cigarette smoke, or there's a problem because that person is this way. Instead of redefining what that looks like, what it looks like to us, what it looks like to other people, and just loving. I think that's what the new chapter. So I think maybe for people that might be a good thing to think about, the chapter that you've just closed in your life as you're entering this mixed faith marriage. Maybe you've just entered, maybe you've been in it for a while. What was the chapter called before? And what do you want the new chapter to be called? Take a minute and think about that, because the stories that we tell ourselves over and over again, some people could look back at their childhood and say, pain, grief, and and horror, or they could rewrite that title in their childhood as growth, love, and learning, And so the story that we tell ourselves over and over again will be helpful or will be detrimental to us. And so looking and maybe even retitling what you call your mixed faith marriage. Maybe some people think of it as some people use that term mixed faith marriage as it's so sad. And we use that term as it's so exciting because it's a marriage. And we've always had individual faith. And our faith, whether we believe it or whether we understand it or not, has always been mixed. It hasn't been exactly the same. And so just calling a mixed faith marriage can be in some ways a badge of honor of we're sticking it out, and we are allowing the other person to belong to them and to belong to their faith, their belief, and I belong to me and I belong to my belief, and we're figuring out how we can make that marriage work. What about you? What would you call the title of your new chapter?
I think the chapter of this next phase of my life is going to be called This Is Gonna Be Good. Because no matter what happens, I think I'm just going to see it as good. And I'm excited. I really am. I think there's just so much opportunity. I have no idea. Maybe I'll join another church. Maybe I'll just keep, popping my head into lots of different churches. Maybe I will start my own church. I've said that a couple of times, and Matt's like, oh boy, don't get her started. But anyway, yeah, I know Allan and Kattie posted something yesterday about a mixed faith family home evening, so maybe we better start looking into some deeper roots there, some mixed faith sacrament meetings and mixed faith Sunday school classes. But Anyway, I have no idea. I really don't. I'm just excited and feeling wonder and awe and excitement for the who knows of what to come.
So I think for me, something that has been super helpful is when I have somebody who, a coach to listen to and to bounce ideas off of. And so we'd like to offer that to you. If you are looking for help with this, feel free to get on our website, mixedfaithmarriagecoaching.com. Lindsay offers a free mini session. She has a few left for this month. It's just a short consultation call is what we call it, so that you can kind of understand what coaching is like. It's just a short 25-minute call, and that's free. And so if you're even interested in seeing what coaching is like, take a look at mixedfaithmarriagecoaching.com. And we're so grateful that Allan and Kattie put this podcast out and give us the opportunity to share.
For real. Yeah, this has been such a fun thing. I had no clue that this was going to happen. Like I kind of thought I was already done with my grieving process, right? I did not know that I still was holding on to some junk, and that I really hadn't come to full acceptance and to a full place of redirected hope. And so it just, honestly, it was like a visceral change within me. And I felt super grateful to Allan and Kattie both that they let us hop in on this experiment, and that it ended up being something that was totally life course changing for me. So anyway, thanks you guys. And thanks to all of you, seriously, for for sharing your stories, for getting on, those Facebook pages and just talking with friends in your neighborhood and with us and just sharing what you're going through. And it's amazing how tolerable life is when you don't feel alone in things, and when you really, can just be brave and feel like, your courage is acceptable, and it's just a beautiful thing to share with one another, and to not feel like we have anything to be ashamed of. So thank you so much. We hope to talk to you again soon. Bye.